And thank you so much for joining the session. Getting started on the certification path. So before I go on to introduce myself, I just want to give a shout out to all the organizers of the event. Julian, for also being very supportive and for having me here at the event. So just want to have a discussion in regards to where you can actually make a start in terms of preparing for your certifications. So tend to want to be a bit more interactive. I just want to check, can everyone hear me okay? And can you see my first slide, which says getting started on the certification path? If I can get some yeses in the chat window, that would be appreciated. Okay, awesome, awesome. Thanks. So a little bit more about myself. So I'm Alexio Chandiwana. I'm a solution designer at BMW. So working on a project to move from on-premise to the cloud. And this is my blog post here where I blog about the Power Platform and my passion for Dynamics 365. And within the blog site as well, there is also links to a user group which I run, which is Microsoft Power Platform Community Africa. So this user group is open for anyone across the globe to join, to have interactions on how to get started on the Power Platform, Dynamics 365, and also pushing for certifications. For those of you on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect. Just send an invite. Definitely would be awesome to connect with you all. And for those who use Twitter, this is my Twitter handle here, and feel free to follow. Our endeavor to follow everybody. Those who are using social media today, I would appreciate if you could also use the hashtag certification Saturday throughout the event today, not just for this session, just to make sure our colleagues who couldn't make it, they can either see the event and they can go look at the recordings for it. So what is it we want to talk about today? We want to talk about why is it myself or anyone need to do any certifications? And what are you going to do to pass the first exam? Sounds really great. The question is, how do you prepare? What are you going to do to prepare? I'm pretty sure in the previous session, you have actually seen some of the guides as well, and I'll go through some more on that. And it sounds great. You pass your first exam. Maybe you do a second one. Fantastic stuff. How do you stay motivated? How do you keep pushing yourself for more of these certifications? So this is what I'm going to speak about. The reason why certifications themselves, you want to be able to validate your competency to your employers. You also want to bring that confidence to your work colleagues to say you can produce what you say you have learned. So it's great. We can learn something, but also having that additional step to validate and to certify, to say you're able to do what you're saying you're doing. So employers, they look at sometimes people who have been certified, and I'm going to show you some numbers as we go along for the session on why it is very, very important for employers, and not just for employers, for yourself as the person who is the expert within the world of Microsoft technology. And the exam structure, the technology itself, is keep changing on a rapid pace. So if I do an exam, I would say 2 or 3 years ago, things have changed, things have moved on. So I need to show I'm keeping up to the technology. The exam content changes, and Microsoft also tell you what is changing. And in regards to exams, they won't wrong foot you whatsoever. They tell you if there is a change coming or if a change recently happened to an exam. And that's some of the things we're looking to show you and give you some guidance in terms of how I've done it myself and how someone can also benefit from it. So in terms of these certifications, reason I deliberately put business challenges here. You've decided, okay, I'm not really doing any certifications. One of the challenges which comes here, you get to an organization or you get to a project, they ask you to solve a business challenge. And because you haven't been keeping up to date with the changes with the product, in some cases, you might think whatever the organization is trying to achieve is impossible. So it is very, very important to certify yourself to also be able to solve business challenges. So every organization, they're expecting every single one of us using this technology to come along as the expert. So it is very, very important. In terms of these certifications, I'm pretty sure you've seen there's so many of them, right? So it's critical for one to decide which path they're going to go to. And we'll show you exactly where and how you can actually get started yourself. So in here, we have a bit of numbers here from Pearson VUE in 2018, 91%. Gives more professionals that credibility to say, okay, yep, what they're telling us, it is exactly what they've gone to certify. Of course, I could have certified a few years back, a few months back, but again, that's where it's important for you to keep up the pace, to stay within the changes which are coming up. So a bit more numbers here, 52% people, this is from Global Knowledge, 2019 IT Skills Salary Report. People now feel their expertise is sought more after from organizations because they've certified. So here we're seeing how important it is to certify. I can honestly tell you, when you get started with an exam, it's not one of the things you look forward to, that's for sure. But I have one trick which has worked very efficiently for myself in terms of preparing for an exam, which I will share. So 93%, again, a bit more numbers here from the Global Knowledge IT Decision Makers Insights 2019. 93% of decision makers, they come to an agreement that a professional who's certified or an employee who's certified, there is value they're definitely bringing to their organizations. So of course, all these are numbers. They look very interesting. But the question is, what are we going to do? And what have I done myself to actually get started and keep up to date with these exams? So one of the first thing here was to go for the first exam, passing the first exam. So in my own personal experience, I was very scared because I didn't know what to expect. And at the same time, the fear of failing. Never fear to fail. If you want to pass, you have to fail. If you want to win, you have to lose some. So I was very scared. So in here, if you're looking to pass your first exam, what I would say here from a personal experience is build the basics, build a strong understanding. So in here, we give, for example, the Power Platform exams. Start looking at the foundation exams. Start looking at the PL 900 exam. Understand what is involved in the technology. What is it I'm finding difficult in terms of learning that specific area. So once you have that strong foundation, you now know where things are going, whether it's going from A to Z or from Z to A, vice versa. So it's very, very important. It's critical for everyone to kind of have that basic understanding. In some cases, you go in the exam, they'll ask you some of the components involved within a specific technical area. And if you don't have that foundational knowledge, you could actually miss out on that. Be confident. So you have an exam, you got the basic knowledge. When you go to the exam, when you're preparing for the exam, prepared to win and also have a percentage which is prepared to also fail. Failing, for me, I've come to the understanding now, it's one of the best things around. It sounds crazy, right? So if you fail an exam, find it as a good opportunity. And it's a good opportunity for you to learn, for you to make improvements, of where things have gone wrong. So relax. Don't start stressing yourself out. If things don't make any sense, ask colleagues to say, okay, I'm reading this material on Microsoft Learn. I'm trying to understand this area. Is there either a book or any videos I can look at to understand it a bit more? Don't overcomplicate it. Just take it easy. It's an exam. It is there for you to pass. So it's very, very important for you to be relaxed, because if you are not relaxed, sometimes it just causes a lot of pressure to yourself. So once you go in the exam, this is one thing which has worked for me as a change from when I got started. So when I got started with my first exam, I horribly failed, and I was beating myself. So I had to go sit down on the drawing table and start looking at things which I think I've done well in the exam and things which didn't work well. So one of the things here is second guessing. So you've gone through your preparation for an exam, you're ready to go sit for the exam. One of the things which I would recommend to do is, once you make a decision of your answer in the exam, don't start second guessing yourself. Start asking yourself, is that the right answer? I think it might be something else. The moment you start doing that, one of the things which will happen, you start spending a lot of time on a specific question, and you might not end up completing the exam because you're just there because it's not just one question in the exam. There's so many questions. And with those questions, you start doing that to 2, 3, 4 questions. The next thing here, you're running out of time, and at the same time, sometimes you end up getting confused. So everything you've prepared for, completely out of the window. So it's one of those things I'll definitely say, do not second guess yourself. It's not the right way for it. And the question is here, we spoke about this exam, how to pass it. How do you prepare for it? So in some cases, I've had people asking me questions in recent times. I just want to go past the exam, but I don't know where to start. So it's important to have a plan. So the first thing here I would recommend is to understand. So it's all well and good. You can go and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to book the exam now. Fantastic. Microsoft Learn. For me, I refer Microsoft Learn as a gold mine of resources. So if you want to learn, if you want to understand the Microsoft technology, Microsoft Learn is basically the place to go to. So once you go to Microsoft Learn, select the area of the exam you're looking for. So if it's Dynamics 365, Power Platform, Azure, Office 365, any area of Microsoft, select that area, start learning. So why is Microsoft Learn, why do I refer it to as a gold mine? Reason being is you don't just learn one thing. There's so many other things. You pull up one, you go along with it, you certify, you come back for more. There is more you can pull up from Microsoft Learn. Skills measured. So every single Microsoft exam, which I've taken myself, you have skills measured. So what I mean by that, skills measured, Microsoft tell you, okay, this is the percentage, this is the area we're going to test you on. We need to know you understand this specific area. So that in itself, that's a hint in itself, right? So that in itself should give you that additional push to go either to start off at Microsoft Learn, look what the components, what the expectation of the exam is. So we're going to cover the skills measured area in the coming slides, exactly why it is very important to look at the skills measured. In some cases, myself on the very first exam, as an example here, went in the first exam, never looked at the skills measured. So I'm in there, I'm thinking, I was reading so many things, and how come I'm just getting loads of things here, selected items. Then again, as part of the learning journey to prepare for these certifications, is one of those things I've learned to always look at it. So in some cases, the exams gets updated because the technology is moving forward. It's important to look at this skills measured page because Microsoft tell you to say this exam is getting updated at a specific date, or this exam has been updated at a specific date. So being updated, fantastic stuff, but you need to understand what has been updated in that exam. What additional knowledge do you need to pick in? What is it that has changed? So it's very, very important to look at that. One of the things which is very, very important, reading something on a website, Microsoft Learn is an example, speaking to people, great. They can share the expertise in terms of how the technology works. But what I find very efficient is take your own notes. You're studying for the exam, look at the skills measured. Once you look at the skills measured, break it down into notes. So as you start reading on your preparation journey, start taking notes, okay, this is the skills measured. This is what I'm finding from here. Why are these important? In my own personal experience, they're important because I understand more things from my own handwriting. Bit weird, right? So that's just one of the techniques I've used myself. Study notes, reflect on them. If something I've written down is not adding up, I need to understand exactly what it is. Then after that, you need to practice. So if you go on Microsoft Learn, you go through the learning materials, you also have questions. Normally you have 5 questions, some cases 3 questions at each end of module. Test yourself. Just have a feel to say, okay, I'm learning here. I'm preparing for an exam. Let me test myself. And if you see on Microsoft Learn what you also have there, if you don't get it right, you get another opportunity. Again, for those of you who haven't taken certifications and looking to take certifications, Microsoft Learn is completely free. So again, there is no pressure to say, okay, do it now, do it now. It is self-paced. However, it's self-paced, but taking a year going through the material to revise for an exam, by the time you finish, the exam is updated. So I would also advise for you to learn it, digest it, go and test yourself. So practice the exam while you're looking at the skills mentioned for that specific exam. So in here, there's some of the resources I've selected, which I found useful. So in terms of these resources here, I will show you the links themselves. For those of you who wish to take a screenshot, these slides should be available from the event organizers. However, I'll cover this one here on this specific slide, and these links, I'll show you exactly what's on those things. So study group. So one of the things I found very useful in terms of preparing for these exams, there's quite a few study groups out there. And one of the study groups myself I found very useful and helping me to understand the technology and prepare for certification. It's a study group by Julian Sharp. So Julian schedules these study groups. And again, one must start thinking, okay, how do I get to this study group? So if you see in the chat window, there's also another one. Julian is kindly organizing another one in May. So you join this study group. It's an opportunity for you to learn the technology from Julian, for you to learn how to prepare for the exam, for you to speak to someone. You're not just reading on the website, you're speaking to someone and you're asking him questions. Okay, Julian, this is where I am, or whoever is the person who's organizing that specific study group. So these study groups, they're available for everyone to join. There's no cost to it. So again, in most cases, the study groups I've joined from Julian, there's also recordings to it. So if I'm in a session, I don't understand anything, I can go back to the recording, ask questions. So one of the things a lot of people I've noticed myself from my experience as well, people, when there is human interactions, sometimes we feel, I don't want to ask a stupid question. There's absolutely nothing like that. Any question is valid. people or someone else might learn from yourself with that question. So here, for those of you who use Twitter, if you could follow Julian on Twitter, Julian Dynamics on Twitter, he kindly posts on there. So one of the things which I did myself to kind of keep track of these things when Julian does it, I've actually used one of the technologies available, Power Automate. So I just look at the tweets by Julian, and if that study group comes up, straight away I know it's there. And either I don't just use it for my own personal use to learn, I also share with others. So for those of you looking to learn, please keep an eye on the study groups, and we'll then go back and show you what's on those links. So I'm just going to bring a web page here so you can actually see exactly what we are speaking about here. So can everyone see this browser page for Edge? I think with the silence, I'm pretty sure I'm sharing a window, right? So let me just reshare so you can actually see these pages, which are very, very useful and pretty handy. So let me just share the desktop. Okay, awesome. So this is the browser pages here. Okay, great. Thanks for those who just confirmed they couldn't see it. So we spoke about Microsoft Learn. So from our previous speaker, you mentioned role-based. So Microsoft have these role-based certifications. You decide which area of expertise or which area you work in. So you can just come to Microsoft Learn, and then you select the area you're working in. So here to show you different areas of study, and at the same time, you can also break it down here, Dynamics 365. And in this case, we're going to look for Power Platform. So if I select Power Platform in here, what you start seeing here, you have learning areas in here. So you basically start picking up what you need to understand, what you need to take. So again, there's a rich loads of information in here for you to pick up. So you're talking about the Power Platform. What is the Power Platform? Yeah, one of the other components involved in the Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, Dataverse. You want to understand what's in here. And again, if you look at it, for example, the introduction to Power BI here, you have 46 minutes. And again, here tells you for Power Platform, it could be for a business analyst, it could be for a beginner. So there's no limits here for you to start saying, okay, I don't understand this. Where do I get started? So here you got some really nice tags to these learning materials, and it's just open for you to learn. One of the things you will need for you with this Microsoft Learn is to have an account if you're gonna use it, and then stop, then come back to it again. So it helps you to keep your progress. So of course, we live in challenging times with the pandemic, and these exams can come with a cost, which is, of course, one of the great, I would say a great thing because it's an opportunity for you to certify. However, Microsoft, they've been very generous. So they're providing the Microsoft Power Platform training days, Dynamics 365 training days. So I'll focus on these two areas because that's the area where I work in myself. So with these training days, they focus on the fundamental exam area. So if we open the Microsoft Power Platform, what you see here, you have two dates put in here, April 15th and May 27th. So for example, if we are to open April 15th, here, why it's so important is it tells you what you're going to learn on this specific day. And at the same time, you also have the exam vouchers. for this exam. They're free at no cost. So again, you have now something to even push you more to look at those fundamental exams to say, okay, let me go and understand what is at the base, what's holding the technology, what is it I need to understand in terms of the basics. So here it is again free for you to register. And what's important here, once you get the exam voucher, don't just sit with the exam voucher, book the exam. Why is it important for you to book the exam? You now have a target. So for those of you who live in the UK, you're on the M25, you got nowhere to go, you're just driving around the M25, right? So you're driving around the M25, you got nowhere you're going, you just keep going around in a circle. But if you know where you're going, then you have a target. You say, okay, this is where I'm going. It's going to take me this amount of time. So you now have time to prepare. You also have something to look forward to. So in the chat window, Julia mentioned that you can use a voucher for any fundamentals exam, but not sure. So yep, if you register for that and you have any issues, feel free to send an email either to the event organizers, and Julian is always helpful in terms of these certifications as always, so he posts these things on Twitter. So for those on Twitter, feel free to kind of pose the question as well. Julian will be kindly happy to help us with that. So another blog site which I've also recommended is this one here by Neoparkest. So in this blog post, there's quite a few certifications. So what you have here, you have one of our community members taking their time to write a blog on what to do, what to prepare for, what to look forward to in terms of exam preparation. So in here, you have lots of these exams. So in here, myself, I took the MB 600 in beta, and I won't tell you the story. We'll talk about it later, right? But I took this exam here. Then I had to come back to this blog site to look a bit more of what is involved. So in here, you see, there's quite a lot of content in here, which the writer has kindly taken time to write for us. And there is many of these writers who actually take their time to write about certifications, to write about the technology. So look at this blog post, and at the same time, you've come to the site, you have passed, or there's something you need to ask, connect. Connect with the blog writer. There's always something in here. So if you see here, there is a reference to Twitter. So again, there's something you need to ask in terms of the blog site. The writer, when they have an opportunity to reply back to yourself, they will do so. So another one, if you're looking to prepare with some official practice test, something which I've picked up by going through the user group, the study groups by Julian, is this site here, Measure Up. So in here, it has the official practice test. So of course they come with a cost, but one thing I can tell you is not the practice test. Then you say, okay, it's the copy of the exam. It's not like that. It's to help you prepare you for the exam. It's to help you prepare you for the exam format. So you come in here, you look for your area. So you see here, you have top vendors in here, Microsoft. So you start looking at practice tests, assessments, and then start learning, start preparing yourself. And also, apart from just doing this practice test, take some notes on things which you think they are challenging. So again, we spoke about the skills measured earlier. So in here, we have the PL 900, the fundamentals exam. So again, we spoke about the technology always changing and exams changing as well. In here, you can see the content for this exam was updated on March 10. And again, in here, one would wonder, okay, the exam was changed. what was changed. Where am I going to find it? So if you scroll down, what you have here, you now have skills measured. So again, in here, we're seeing percentages of exactly where the areas where you'll be tested in terms of this specific exam. So if you select download exam skills outline, so in here, what you can see, again, in red, they're telling you the exam that was updated. And if we keep scrolling down, so of course, we know they'll test us on this, but we need to know what has changed. So if you keep going in here, you start seeing the name CDS, Common Data Service, has changed. It's now Microsoft Database. So again, you keep going, you start seeing things which are changed. And in some cases, we spoke about keeping up to date with the changes of the technology, right? Entities, yeah, they're now called tables, right? So understand, okay, this is what's changed. The last thing you want to do is you're talking about these entities, and there's no reference on documentation for you to say, okay, yeah, these are tables. So again, it's very, very vital for anyone preparing for an exam to come and look what has changed. And also, if you see in here, there's a lot of information for you to consume. So in here, what you then need to do, if I go back to the top, I'm just going to pick one specific area. So in here, describe the business value of the Power Platform. They're looking at 15 to 20% within the exam. So start looking at exactly what is being spoken about in this area here. What is it you need to understand in terms of the business value the Power Platform brings? So once you understand that, the exam comes. In most cases, it's most of the things you understand here. And if there's any question, you probably be say, okay, yeah, I've done that. This is the value of it. Again, for every single area. So it's very, very important for you to keep looking at these things. So another thing as well, I tend to like my discounts. So if I happen to see any exam in beta, I always tend to run and say, okay, you know what, let me test myself. So this Microsoft Learn blog site. So if you see in here, there's one of the new stories which is in there. And again, it's part of the preparation journey. So this story here of the 10-year-old twins who went for the Power Platform, for me, it's a motivation. It's an inspiration. These young girls, they've gone on, they've done something. It then pushes me to say, okay, yeah, great. There's more of us doing these kind of things. Let me also push for more. So again, in here, one of the things I want to show you is the Microsoft Power Platform Solution Architect Beta exam. So for myself, again, sometimes it's hard to keep track. So normally what I've done is use the technology again. So I have Power Automate looking at this page. And if these beta exams come in, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at the exam, and I also check, do I have the time? So that question, do I have the time, is a very important question, because in some cases we ask ourselves, how do you balance certifications, preparing for them, going to these study groups, and also with work? So what I always say is, if you want to achieve something, you always have time for it. So it might be very tough, but I can assure you, once you put your head to it, you always find an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to learn. So in here, if you see, this is the exam. So this exam, it's in beta at the moment. We are hoping for some good news from Julian. He mentioned it took yesterday, right? So in here, this exam, this is the 80% discount code. So this exam discount code is available for the first 300 people. So again, come in here, go for the exam discount. In most cases, the information for these exams is limited. But again, That's where the element of pushing yourself comes into it. Push yourself. Also look at the expectation of the exam in itself, and then start looking at it. So I've seen a blog site by EY Kalman, CRM Ninja. He tends to post about these beta exams to give you some guidance to say, okay, yeah, this is what you expect. This is the areas you need to look into. So it is very, very important for you to look at that. So here we talk about information which is online. We also have community members who take their time, again, apart from writing blogs, to write a book. So get a copy of the book yourself. Here we have the Power Platform Functional Consultant PL200 exam guide. So you have the exam guide in here. So in my own personal experience, when I was preparing for the PL200 exam, I looked at Microsoft Learn and then put a lot of effort in reading what the PL200 exam guide is all about. So for those of you looking at resources, there's a vast amount of resources for you to learn from. So going back to our slides in here. So in here, we spoke about the Power Platform. So in here, what you want to do if you're preparing for the Power Platform Fundamentals exam, you want to understand what's involved in Power Apps. You want to understand exactly how do you actually get started yourself to actually create an app for yourself. Power Automate. So in here, we're talking about the 4 pillars of the Power Platform. So we're talking about Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, PVA, Power Virtual Agents. So again, these are the areas which you need to say, okay, yeah, I need to understand the underlying foundational knowledge of these things. Again, we went to Microsoft Learn, and we're able to actually see exactly where you can start learning these things. So you have each single area on Microsoft Learn to learn these things. And learning is not just about reading. I always also encourage everyone to try the technology. Don't just go and read and say, okay, yeah, fantastic. Give yourself that hands-on, have a feel exactly what the text is talking about. So what to expect in the exam. So you're prepared, then we need to go to the exam, right? So we spoke about the skills measured. So in here, what to expect in the exam, what's important here, it's on the day of the exam, make sure you check in. So normally if your exam is on the hour, they give you an allowance, you can check in half an hour before. Check in half an hour before, make sure you're settled, you're relaxed. You're not pressurizing yourself to say, oh, I'm late. I need to make sure I move things in my room. Make sure the room, if you're doing it at home, is clear. And as our last speaker mentioned, if you're going to an exam center, make sure you have what's required. Make sure you have your ID. If you get there with no ID, fortunately, they won't allow you to take it. So even if you're doing it at home, the person you're speaking with virtually, they'll also require you to show them their ID, your ID. So you can, of course, you take the pictures of it, and then when you get started, they might ask you to show your ID, and they might ask you to show your surroundings. So it's very, very important before you do the exam to make sure those things are covered, to make sure you're ready. So it's more or less you're raring to go. There's nothing you need to move around which might distract you from going for the exam. So here we have a red velvet cake. So a red velvet cake is one of my favorite cakes. So when I look at exams here, probably thinking, why is this guy showing us a cake? So when I look at exams myself, I take exams as cakes. So when I take one exam, it's a piece of cake, but that piece of cake is challenging. It's amazing. I want more. So start off with a little bit of it, understand the foundational knowledge, start building on it. So once you have your foundational knowledge, start looking at what other exams can you challenge yourself. Of course, It takes a lot of time and effort to prepare for these things, but that's how we keep getting better and better, and that's how we improve ourselves. So you also get badges. So when you pass an exam, you can share this with your colleagues. So with the exams here, you get some of these badges here. I haven't done as many as some of the colleagues who have spoken previously, but again, you have these badges. Show your colleagues, okay, this is the exam I've passed. This is what I want to do next. But again, you have some badges to show. So again, here talking about fundamentals exams. So these badges here, you can share them on LinkedIn, you can share them on Twitter, even your employers. Share these things with them, show that you're doing these certifications. So when you write an exam, it takes a lot of effort, right? And we're expecting to go in there and to come out victorious, to come out with a pass. That's great. It's always a positive attitude to have to go in an exam. So one of the things here, like I said, I've taken the exam in beta mode, which is the MB 600. And once I took this exam, this is the story I was talking about before, with those slides on the blog for Neoparkest. So gone to the exam, I failed. So if you can see here, yep, the exam is a fail. The score was 603, and the passing score is 700. So why is it important? So for me, what I always do when I do an exam, whether it's a pass or it's a fail, I always go and download the exam score. So here I failed. For me, I took it as a big opportunity because I took it as an opportunity that I have some weaknesses. I have some areas I need to improve on. So again, I went back to the drawing board, started putting in a bit more work to understand exactly what's expected in the exam, the skills measured, what is it I need to improve on. So went back to the exam. So I didn't just take the exam, fail and give up, went back to the exam in itself. So here, of course, the pass came along. But again, if you see in here, it's a pass, it's great news. But again, there is a gap in here. So again, I went back to start looking. Of course, you can't go and retake the exam, but I went back to enhance my knowledge, to enhance my understanding. So I also attended a webinar in terms of how to prepare for this exam. Although I've passed, you have to be continual. You have to be deliberate in your efforts to understand this exam and to certify. So it's easily done. I've passed. I don't want to know anything else. I always say, keep pushing yourself. And apart from these passes, they're great. One of the things I always say as well is celebrate. Don't just pass an exam. Oh yeah, just another exam. Celebrate it. Share with your colleagues. Speak about it with your peers. Of course, not the exam content, but tell them you have passed. Tell them I've gone to Microsoft Learn, whatever resources you used, share that knowledge so they understand, okay, he's doing well, she's doing well, our friend is doing something amazing. So it is very, very important for us to celebrate these achievements. So what's next? So there's no limits in terms of certifications. I would say keep pushing yourself to keep learning. There's no boundaries in terms of saying, okay, I've done 15 exams. That's enough now. Keep pushing yourself, keep challenging yourself. The learning is available. There's so many resources within the Microsoft communities to help you either preparing for certification or understand the technology in itself. So any questions for me? in terms of how to actually get started with the certification or any of the discussion points in this session, please feel free to ask any questions. Is everyone okay? It's gone silent. Okay, so I have what's the next exam I'm planning. Yeah, so the next exam I'm planning will be the PL 600 on Tuesday. So fingers crossed, I come up with a learning point from it. So that'll be PL 600. Awesome. So if there's no further questions on that note, thank you so much for taking time to join this session. And again, please keep pushing yourself with these certifications. They're very important. I'll hand over back to Julian.